I hope you enjoy my stories. Instead of just clicking thumbs down, please comment and share how we can do better. If you do like our video, then please like and subscribe.
Growing up, I always looked up to my grandpa.
He was this rough around the edges, tell it like it is kind of guy. He lived in this cozy house with my grandma in a neighborhood that was kinda tight-knit, or so it seemed from the outside.
There were about 80 houses, all neatly tucked away from the main road. Most folks there seemed to keep to themselves, but Grandpa, he was different.
He'd sit on his porch, wave at maybe 2 houses as folks passed by, and sometimes he'd have a friend or 2 over. But that was it. As a curious 10-year-old, I couldn't help but question why he didn't mingle more.
There were all these neighbors after all.
One sunny afternoon I plucked up the courage to ask him. With his ever-so-gruff voice, he replied, shaking his head, "They're no good, kid."
That's all he said, and he refused to elaborate.
That advice, though cryptic at the time, stuck with me. Or at least I thought it did until I went against all he taught me. When it came time for me to buy a house, somehow I landed in an FHOA neighborhood. You know, the kind of homeowners association that seems to be straight out of a nightmare. I'd heard stories, sure, but nothing could have prepared me for the reality of it. BT, the way we all know what the F stands for, and if not, is as F-ucked. The people, oh man, where do I even begin? The HOA board was one thing, a group of folks who seemed to enjoy making everyone's lives just a bit more miserable.
But it wasn't just them. It was like everyone in the neighborhood had collectively decided to leave their sense and sensibility at the city limits. Petty arguments, spineless complaints, and an abundance of ignorance flourished like weeds in a neglected garden. And it wasn't like I dove in head first without looking.
I did my homework, or so I thought. The realtor and title company handed us this shiny set of CCR's covenants, conditions, and restrictions that promised a harmonious living environment.
Talk about a fairy tale gone wrong.
These documents turned out to be as fraudulent as a $3 bill, but by the time we figured that out, it was too late.
We were stuck.
I remember this sinking feeling, the realization that I'd become one of those dumb asses my grandpa probably would have ranted about. The irony wasn't lost on me.
Here I was living in a community that contradicted everything I was taught growing up.
My neighbors, though,
they seemed okay with it, brushing off the HOA's antics like it was just another day in paradise. I spent days trying to figure out my next move. Leaving wasn't as simple as packing up and moving out. Selling the house meant possibly tricking someone else into taking my place in this suburban dystopia, and that just didn't sit right with me. The alternative?
Sticking it out and trying to change things from the inside, a daunting task when it felt like me against the world.
Living in the FHOA was a daily adventure in absurdity. There was the time when the board decided that all mailboxes had to be painted a specific shade of blue. Not just any blue, mind you, but a shade that was so obscure it required a special order. Or the summer, all yard decorations were banned, unless they were approved by the board, which apparently had a thing against garden gnomes. It wasn't just the rules that were ridiculous, it was the way people enforced them. Neighbors spying on each other, reporting the most minor infractions like it was a high crime. I once got a notice for leaving my trash bins out a whole 12 hours after pickup.
12 hours. Looking back, Grandpa's words echo in my mind, louder than ever. He saw something all those years ago, a truth about community living that I failed to grasp until I was neck deep in it.
They're no good, he said. And boy was he right.
Now I'm not saying everyone who lives in an HOA is a bad person. I've met a couple of folks who are exceptions to the rule, trying to navigate this madness just like me.
But it's tough, you know?
Trying to foster community spirit when there's so much division sowed by petty rules and power trips. Every day I'm reminded of my grandpa's wisdom. His blunt assessments of people and his refusal to engage with the neighborhood drama make so much sense now. He knew the value of real community, of genuine connections. And as much as it pains me to admit, I strayed from those lessons. Living in this FHOA has been a harsh lesson, a reminder that sometimes the old ways, the old wisdom holds true. Maybe there's a way out of this, a chance to turn things around. Or maybe it's a lesson learned too late. Either way, I'm stuck wrestling with the consequences of not listening to the one person who always seemed to know better.
Grandpa was right after all. Always listen to your grandpa. As I ponder my next steps, plotting either my escape or my next move to change the tide in this neighborhood, I can't help but chuckle at the thought of my grandpa shaking his head at me saying, "Told you so."
If there's one thing I've learned from this whole mess, it's that sometimes the best advice comes from those who've seen it all before. So here's to you, Grandpa.
You were right all along, and I should have listened. It started when my HOA decided they needed more of my hard-earned money.
Out of nowhere, I get this piece of paper in the mail, saying I owe them $50 for skipping what they call an annual meeting. Now, hold up a sec, 'cause, according to their own rule book, this shindig was supposed to be in a totally different month. I was off doing my duty with the military, training and stuff, when they reckon they sent out a note about the new date. My wife, bless her, says no such letter ever showed up at our place. Now is it possible that she might have tossed it by accident while dealing with the mountain of other junk mail we get?
Sure, anything's possible. But is it also possible we never got this mystery letter in the first place? Absolutely. I went straight to them and said, "Hey, we never got this letter. What's the deal with this $50 you're after?"
They shoot back, saying it was all decided in the meeting I supposedly missed. So I fired back, asking why the heck didn't they give me a ring or at least shoot me an email? I mean, it's 2023, not the Stone Age. If someone nabbed that letter from my mailbox, wouldn't be the first mail mishap we've had.
Mail scattered everywhere in the street a few months back. Or if some other weird thing happened and I never saw it, and then you decide to slap me with, I dunno, a $500 fee next time, how am I supposed to argue that?
I tried to be polite, asked him to give me a break this once. But nope. They went all high and mighty on me, saying they'd pile on more late fees if I didn't cough up the dough. Well, that was over 6 months ago, and I haven't given them a dime.
Now, here's where it gets even juicier. I'm thinking of selling my place. Yep, getting out of this crazy town and moving on to greener pastures.
But then it hits me. What if I actually do owe them this money, and maybe even more now?
I have no clue how to check what I owe without tipping them off, 'cause let's face it, I was kinda hoping they'd just forget about the whole thing. Am I worried this is gonna come back to haunt me when I'm trying to close the deal on selling the house?
You bet. Not sure how I can sneak a peek at my HOA dues and fees without stirring up a hornet's nest. I've been racking my brain on how to tackle this.
Do I just bite the bullet and call them? Do I get my lawyer to sniff around?
I don't want to open a can of worms if I don't have to. But then again, I've heard stories about folks getting to closing day and finding out they owe all sorts of crazy fees and dues to their HOA that they never even knew about.
Sounds to me like that could mess up the sale big time.
So here I am trying to figure out my next move. Maybe I should have just paid the $50 and avoided all this drama.
But it's the principle of the thing, you know?
I'm not one to let things slide easily, especially when I feel like I'm being taken advantage of. And let's be honest, no one likes being bossed around or told they owe money for some meeting that was rescheduled at the drop of a hat. And let's not forget the part where they got all snarky with me.
That sure didn't help things.
Now every time I get a letter in the mail, I'm half expecting it to be another demand for money from them.
Even checking my mailbox has turned into this weird game of Russian roulette.
I've asked around, trying to get some advice from neighbors or anyone who's been in a similar spot. Some say just call and deal with it. Others reckon I should stand my ground. But standing my ground is what got me into this mess in the first place. Thinking back, maybe I missed a step.
Maybe there was a way to prove that we never got this so-called letter?
But the idea of trying to argue that now after all this time seems kinda daunting. Plus, if they were willing to get snarky over the phone, who knows how they'd react to me, accusing them of not sending the letter or claiming it got lost.
It's a bit like being stuck between a rock and a hard place.
I want to sell my house, I really do, but I also don't want to cave to what feels like a shakedown. At the same time, I gotta be realistic about what this could mean for the sale. Yet there's a bunch of unpaid dues stacked against me, even if I think they're unjust. It could scare off potential buyers, or worse, kill the deal entirely.
Guess it all boils down to figuring out a battle plan. Maybe it's time to get some professional advice. Talk to a real estate agent or a lawyer who knows all about this HOA stuff.
They might have a way to check what I owe without stirring up too much trouble.
And hey, if I'm lucky, maybe there's a chance I can get this sorted without having to fork over a bunch of cash for meetings I never knew about in the first place.
But one thing's for sure, I'm not gonna let this whole HOA late fee nonsense ruin my plans. I'll figure out a way to deal with it, one way or another.
It's just another bump on the road, right? How hard can it be to sort this mess out?
All of a sudden, garbage cans cannot be seen by neighbors and only put out between 5 to 7 a.m. on garbage day.
Today, I receive a citation from my HOA, Happy New Year's now, pay us, through my landlord, saying that I'm violating the rules about having garbage out. Little background first.
Been in this house for over a decade? Received a copy of rules when I moved in, and the only mention of garbage was that it could only be put out on garbage day or the night before. Empty garbage can by the street, but tied up, so it can't go anywhere untied, only on garbage day.
Only put out the garbage, actual trash, on garbage day as close to general pickup time as I can. This is a bear area and bears come to visit occasionally around 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. I've seen them and watched them wishing I had night vision photography capabilities.
A few years ago, Colorado Springs enacted a code that everyone on the west side of town is only allowed to put out their garbage between 5 to 7 a.m. on garbage day, Wednesday, unless you have a bear-proof container to cut down on the delinquent bears. These hours are not convenient for anyone I've met, but my issue isn't even really with the hours. The garbage companies don't provide bear-proof containers and refuse to pick up if you don't use their provided cans. Small house lot, only 2 feet of space on side of garage and house before lot line, which is required to be clear.
Fenced-in backyard with 2-foot wide gate for access. Entire exterior of property can be seen from the street other than a few feet against the house in the backyard. Garbage can is little over 2 feet wide. Health and size issues making it between incredibly painful and impossible, depending on the day, to even move my empty can when it gets blown over by the wind.
I already have to keep food garbage in my fridge. Thanks to sinus issues, scented garbage bags don't do anything to help, and not being able to put anything outside unless it's 5 to 7 a.m. on Wednesday.
Today,
suddenly get a phone call and email from my landlord, saying I had a citation for my garbage, can being out on a non-pickup day.
Just so happens, my neighbors put out their garbage, trash, recycling, and all Saturday night next to my can, where they always put it on garbage day. The picture that was included as evidence of my crime was a bad picture of clouds. So I have no idea what day or even time of day they came by to exercise their little power trip, other than the sun was out and the clouds were bright.
If the issue is from before that, then it would have to be from the beginning of December when my landlord was doing yard work and putting that in the can, which means it's his fault. If they suddenly decided to have a problem with the empty, tied up, can that bears walk right past?
Yes, I've watched it happen multiple times as they head to multiple other neighbors who always, for years, had their trash in their cans outside and untied.
Then it has to be from someone on a sudden power trip, going out and marking every tiny little thing. Think Sheldon from Young Sheldon, nitpicking everything. I keep my trash inside my house until garbage day, when I then take it out and put it in the can, because I have no secure place to put my can. Now the only solution I can see is getting rid of my can and garbage service and never throwing anything away. The can's too big to fit through gate of the backyard, not that I can physically move it much anyway. The garage is too small for even proper access to 2 cars, let alone adding a garbage can to the mix. I'd have to move a car out to be parked in the street, which is a far worse crime to the HOA. Driveway's too narrow to move the can past a car, even have to walk off the driveway just to walk around the car because it's barely a parking spot wide. And worse for the car with the massive damaging hailstorms we get.
Zoo animals get killed and insurance companies don't want to provide coverage here anymore, partially because of the hail.
I swear that HOAs are just kingdoms with a different name.
Wasn't America founded for freedom from tyranny and oppression and kingdoms by extension? Why are HOAs allowed to exist? They nitpick over tiny, inconsequential stuff and fine everyone for it, while not meeting their end of things, utility easements full of weeds spreading to the neighbors. So they can fine us for having weeds, charging for street lighting when there aren't street lights, not plowing snow when they need to, etc.
Last I checked, rule changes have to be approved by homeowners in meetings which no one knows about, according to my landlord and neighbors, and then distributed to all residents, renters, and owners alike.
And unless I read it wrong, it looks like the HOA is in Minnesota and the neighborhood is in Colorado. Only a small part of the address was showing in the email. How does this make sense? It's supposed to be made up of the homeowners themselves, not some corporation somewhere. I have no way to contact the HOA myself.
Not that they'd listen to a renter anyway, as I have no phone number, email address, or even name for them. And my landlord won't provide it either. I just have to be a good sheep and roll over and do what I'm told whether it's right or not. Sorry for the rant, but I'm ticked and thought I'd share the absurdity of all of this.
I would like to thank you for watching the video to the end. To encourage us to make more videos, please like, subscribe, comment, as well as share. Check out this other video if you haven't already.